Hello and welcome to the Rams post-draft show. It's been day number 2 and this is presented by Rocket Mortgage. Hi everyone, I'm Cameron Irwin alongside JV Long, DeMarco Farr, and Les Snead, the general manager of the Los Angeles Rams. And it's exciting news right now. Day 2, we have our first pick for the Los Angeles Rams. Finally, we're there. But let's talk before we get to Logan Bruss about this location, because the second year in a row we've had a phenomenal draft house from Rocket Mortgage. And this place in the Hollywood Hills, well, that's not really much of a war room. It's more of an elegance room up there, no less, right, Les?
That's a good nickname. That is not a war room. That's all elegance.
I love it, I love it.
I don't know if we can top this one.
I don't know.
Pressure's on for next year.
Something tells me you'll try.
No doubt.
Well,
Every now and then, you strike out, right?
Yeah.
2 for 3 is not bad.
I love it. Well, we're having fun. We're actually hanging out in the game room of this beautiful place. So it's time to dig in a little bit. So day 2 is concluded. We already mentioned Logan Bruss. Tell us, what do we know about him?
What do you know? This is going to be our third right tackle who started at Wisconsin as a right tackle, comes to the Rams, finds a way to play. So that's Rob Havenstein. He stayed at right tackles, kind of anchored it down. Dave Edwards was a right tackle at Wisconsin. He comes in, finds a way to left guard. And right now we're going to move Logan in and let him compete for that right guard spot that Austin Corbett filled last year.
Why did Brian Hill end up in the pool here in the Hollywood Hills?
We had a draft meeting the other day. So the background on Brian Hill, he's a tough grader, if you know what I mean. And he'll let you know you got to earn a starting grade from him. So he had given Logan Bruss a starting grade, and we go through it. And the whole point being, not a lot of players that he's really fighting for. So I think going through it, all right, which player in the area that's realistic, because he's going to have some that weren't going to be realistic, that you'd really want. Logan Bruss was one. I think he made the side comment, you know what? If we draft Logan Bruss, I'll jump in that pool and we'll have our own pool party in the honor of Raheem's pool party. So we made it real, live, and virtual tonight.
Am I correct that Jordan Fuller is one of Brian's claims to fame? That
is
he
one
also
of his,
got a similar grade?
Similar grade. It's probably the exact grade. And we would have taken Jordan Fuller in the 3rd round that year. We happened to take a couple other players, but Jordan was still there a little bit later. Brian Hill's grade was staring us in the face, and he's a tough grader. You got to earn it. He knows football, and usually if I take you into the psyche of a scout's mind, he's one of those players that player needs to check every box, right? He needs to be refined, right? On the field, off the field, in the classroom, all of those things, in the weight, all the things. Check all the boxes, and Brian Hill will sign off on it.
So you talk about boxes, excuse me here. So what are the boxes that he has checked off?
He was a player. Here's number 1. Played guard and tackle not last year, the 2020 season. Comes into 2021, is playing right tackle, and he had an injured shoulder most of the year, but never bowed out. And not saying if you do bow out doesn't mean you're not injured, but showed a little bit of toughness, a little bit of grit. Didn't go to the All-Star circuit because he wanted to give his shoulder time to heal, but he did go to the combine, and really probably of Wisconsin linemen, and Rob and Dave might, they're not here, they're bigger than me, so I can probably say it. They usually don't test well in the combine, all the gymnastics that goes on there, and he's a guy that tested well, and so he was checking the off-season boxes, and just one of those players. Sean mentioned in the press conference, they run a very similar pro-style offense at Wisconsin. Not a lot of college teams still do that. So run game nuances and things like that, he's very astute in. So just one of those guys, plug and play as kind of a scouts.
What is it about Wisconsin linemen? They just come out ready to play.
You know what it might, it's Wisconsin, it's cold, it's cheese curds.
You got to really want to go there.
You got to. I mean, I think little kids in Wisconsin, they grow up and want to be offensive linemen, right? They don't want to be quarterbacks or sack the quarterback. Why would we do that?
Because it's fun.
Let's pack that stadium out. Let's get in you'll see they run 13 personnel. They may have 4 tight ends in some of their packages.
Wow.
And they're still dancing up and down at Badger Stadium.
Pro scheme. I read the quick bio. 2 things jumped out: violent, nasty, as part of his game, as how he's described. Does that kind of fit?
You know what? That seems to be, again, one of those kind of Wisconsin offensive lineman traits. We always say this term for offensive line. You need to be able to get in the way and stay in the way, right? So there, you know how that is. So the offensive lineman needs to know the intent of the play. So if DeMarco Farr is there, how is that lineman going to take the steps to get between you and the ball carry? And I think where you see it is he does a really good job with angles, geometry of the game, knowing that DeMarco is a really, really quick defensive lineman. So now I need to adjust my angle because there's no way I'm taking the normal one and block him. He's getting off the ball. It's TFL. So he knows how to adjust his angles, and then when he stays in the way, that's where you see some of that tenacity. He likes staying in the way. He has fun staying in the way.
All right, well, you're talking about geometry, but we're going to move on to some philosophy because we definitely have had a lot of conversation about your draft philosophy. So how would you characterize maybe your strategy going into this draft?
Going into this draft, we knew we didn't have, let's call it, a lot of picks early, first 100 picks, even though 104. Let's just count the first 100 picks. So we really, really wanted to make this one count. And with that being said, the draft was going to come to us. I mean, 103, not 103 teams, but 31 teams had 103, let's call it, shots before we did. So we were hoping a few players would fall to us, one being Logan. And then one of the things about him is he is plug and play. He's played in a pro style. Coming here, learning the terminology, that's not going to be something that's going to overwhelm him. Techniques, he's not going to have to, learn to dribble left-handed. We already play right-handed, things like that. So we really wanted to make this pick count. And then from there, we're still going to have to go to the drawing board tomorrow and let the draft come to us again. We got 7 picks tomorrow, so that'll be one. Do we trade back and maybe get it to 8 or 9? But hopefully each step of the way, there's usually someone that's going to be on the board that we'll have a vision for.
We talked about the football coaching staff having a lot of turnover year to year. In your room, pretty good continuity, right? Year over year for your group?
It's been very, very consistent continuity. I mean, Brad Holmes, Ray Agnew leaving. Those are two. I mean, that's a lot of wisdom, brain power that walked out the door. The interesting thing about our group, especially amongst some of our over-the-top guys, whether it's Marty Barrett, Taylor Morton, Teddy Monaco, those guys have been scouting in this league for 20 plus years. I mean, there's close to 60 plus years of experience right there. We add Ray Farmer to the mix. He had been consulting with us, and he's been a former GM. So the neat thing is having that continuity, that consistency, and you can allow that group to go to work and really rely on.
So as kind of the head coach of that group, maybe a bit of a stretch here, but I hope you'll allow it because you're an SEC football guy. One of my favorite phrases has become rat poison, right? Nick Saban kind of guarding against all the positive press clippings that the Crimson Tide have heard over the years. Your group's had a lot of positive things said about you in recent months. Have you had to kind of talk to the group and
Teddy Monaco, lives in Birmingham, Alabama. So and he basically has real estate, right, at their campus in their facility. Mm-hmm. I mean, they'll let Alabama. Nick Saban will let Teddy Monaco come in at any time. He can probably sleep there, live there, stay there a week. That kind of relationship with that group. So anytime, every now and then, I may send them a little bit like, look, here's a little rat poison. Somebody said, you know what Teddy Monaco does in the group text? He makes sure, he will actually bring up the word rat poison. He's going to make sure the group, hey, that's in the past. We got to keep going forward. So, but you know what? It's neat. Probably different than guys that score touchdowns on Saturdays, and I'm sure that's why Nick Saban does that. But for those men and women that are behind the scenes scouting, a little bit of rat poison for them is probably well deserved and less than rat poison.
A lot has been said about how you're going about building a football team, kind of changing the league, so to speak. Did you set out to do things differently, or did you just kind of wind up this way?
I don't think you can ever say, all right, let's try to do something different tomorrow. I think what we set out to do is what can we do today to give us an edge so that we have a chance to win a game tomorrow. And I think at that point in time, again, the building goes to work and we figure out ways that we think might give us an edge, and we experiment with them because nothing's certain, right? You're forecasting, you're prognosticating, things like that. But I think it's really just, okay, what can we do? What do we got to do, right, to try to be 1 of 32? That's not easy. Mm-hmm. So what can we do today? And here we are.
So when you look back through some of your career, is there any moment where you can maybe pinpoint where you were able to build upon this foundation or maybe this method to your madness of putting a team together where you're going, hey, this is working and this is a deal or maybe a trade or a pick that we've made that's now starting this schematic and this philosophy that you have?
I think I mentioned to someone earlier today that I think being fortunate in sports to have tenure, to have, I don't want to say tenure, that's a bad word, that's like you can't, to have experience, to have years on your side. Because in sports, the more losses you get, it's like a car with dents, right? So everybody looks at it, you're just a beat up car, where if a surgeon was 12 years in, you're not really looking at that surgeon as, okay, beat up. It's like, wait a minute, that he has or she has a lot more experience than maybe when they started. So I think that's one of the keys is being fortunate enough to be in the job over a decade. And then at that point in time, when you do take a few dents and you go to fix that dent, you learn from it. There's always wisdom in it. And the thing that you have to do is when you do learn something, can you apply that lesson? And how fast can you apply that lesson? Because we all can learn things, but if you're not applying it. So I think fortunate enough that, Stan Kroenke, Kevin Demoff, those guys, especially when we went through the change midway through my career, gave me an opportunity, right, to apply some of the wisdom that was earned in a very hard fashion.
This time last year, I felt like the overarching imperative maybe was to become faster, more explosive. And you addressed that through a number of ways. Matthew Stafford as a quarterback, Sean Jackson, Tutu Atwell, kind of drafting, acquiring these pieces to maybe incrementally attain a goal year to year. Was there one of those this year? Was there any driving force behind your offseason work, or is it more kind of big picture fine-tuning coming off the Super Bowl championship?
I think there's an element, the neat thing about having a Super Bowl roster is it's actually a really good roster, right? It was good enough to compete for a Super Bowl and actually win the final game. Now, with that being said, there's gonna be natural attrition, and it's interesting. In some of it, we lose Von Miller during the offseason, but we don't pivot and add an OLB per se or someone to rush the passer. We did pivot and add Allen Robinson. So the philosophy will always be agile. Why do you add Allen Robinson? And it's unfortunate, right? We signed Odell, we lost him, but having Odell, he added an element to an offense that we weren't going to have immediately back based on his unfortunate injury. So losing, let's call it, if you want to call it unlucky to lose Von, it gave us an opportunity to get someone like Allen Robinson, who's different than Odell, but similar in what he can do and what he can bring to the offense. That actually was not the offense we were technically running before we lost Robert Woods. So through all of that, we have to be agile, to be anti-fragile.
I would have said protect Matthew Stafford. That's why you got a guard.
You know what? That's a good, concise way of looking at it. I was rambling.
No, you're doing great.
Last one for me, in honor of the game room here at the Rocket Mortgage Draft House. Of the three of us, who do you think would win a Mortal Kombat?
You don't want any. Yeah.
So what is that?
Lethal.
Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat, video game.
Come on. Quick, nimble.
Yeah.
No?
Hand-eye coordination.
Finish him?
Come on.
Okay.
You know what do you go with DeMarco? But you know what? I just think it's not DeMarco. I think that's the easy answer. You know what I mean?
Go ahead.
Maybe you've gotten a little older.
Underestimated
what I'm
all my
saying?
life, see? Take all your
You're
money. Let's
smiling.
go.
I'm happy. I'm just saying, don't underestimate me.
got the
I may be
glasses in
smaller,
hand.
but
That's right.
don't underestimate me.
Hammer, you
I'm stealing the draft.
betting.
That's all I'm saying. I'm that third rounder. Cooper Kupp coming in.
No doubt.
Wow.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Hey, and
Congrats.
go get them picks.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
7 tomorrow. Let's have some
out.
fun.
It's
Get
fun
some
to have
rest.
picks.
Yes, it is.
The T-shirt's all wrong.
T-shirts all wrong. Go get them picks. That's what we're going with. Well, it is time to have a little bit more of a conversation. We're going to get into what has taken place in the offseason and some of the acquisitions that the Rams have been able to do. So we're going to look, I'm looking right at you, JB Long. Let's start this off, the big one. And I haven't got a chance to catch up with you guys since this has happened. Mr. Bobby Wagner. What is going to take place with that guy? I've got a lot of questions, especially what is it going to look
Me
like
too.
with Ernest Jones out there as well.
Sure, you want to start?
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so off the top of my head, he's a player that Les Snead has a rule based off of.
That's fair.
And so I think that speaks volumes when they do kind of break the mold, break the blueprint. Inside linebacker, off-ball linebacker, not a position that this power structure has invested in this way before. So he's kind of the exception that proves the rule. Got to have a Hall of Fame resume, I think, to make that worthwhile. I believe in the positive impact he can have on the rising sophomore, who they think very highly of in Ernest Jones, and the tandem that they can be together. I know you got some thoughts on the 49ers. I'll save that for you.
Forgot about that.
I do think Los Angeles has become a very appealing, maybe even a priority destination for veteran free agents. Whether it's Andrew Whitworth, Eric Weddle, Aqib Talib, so many others have come to LA because of everything that it has to offer on and off the field, because the way that Sean McVay and his coaching staff operate their weekly practice cadence to extend and get the most out of, extract the most out of what's left of their prime.
I just can't wait to see it. I know 1st and 10 is going to be a problem with Bobby Wagner in the middle, with Aaron Donald, with A'Shawn Robinson, Greg Gaines. It was already tough to run the ball in between those two tackles. Now you've got Bobby Wagner standing right in the middle of that with Ernest Jones as your free hitter. That is absolutely scary. Now, 1st and 2nd down, feel comfortable. 3rd down, what are we going to do? Keep him on the field? What's the issue? How do you use him? But you never say no to a Bobby Wagner on your football team. Ever, ever, ever. And like you said with the 49ers, this is your 49er insurance. This is your toughness insurance. If you had him last year, the problems you had with Debo kind of go away. There's a guy that can out-hit you right there. Like I said, a cement truck at linebacker. So great addition. Just can't wait to see how they use him.
Well, you talk about some assurance. Well, how about assurance in the red zone? Because the next guy, Allen Robinson, obviously a big jump ball guy, definitely dangerous in the red zone. I mean, I know we've been talking about him for some time, but just in terms of a little update, how do you think Matthew Stafford is going to be able to utilize him?
Every way possible.
I love it.
I mean, any way possible. You watch him in Chicago, and, you know, I wouldn't say he struggled, but it was tough. Different quarterbacks throwing to him, but good adjustments on the football. He always made the attempt to make the catch, even if it was a circus catch. And when he catches it, you've got problems. And when he's loose in the open field. So you think about Matthew Stafford, who can be accurate with the football and get there with velocity. So I think there's even more to his game than what we saw in Chicago. So tremendous. And the red zone is, that was kind of the Achilles heel for the offense. If that changes, if you get into the red zone and you can score there 70% of the time, the offense gets better. You're coming off a Super Bowl, championship winning offense. If you can make that red zone even better for the offense. Yeah.
I love the point Les made about the way they pivoted offensively, not expecting to have someone like Odell Beckham Jr., not expecting certainly to lose someone like Robert Woods, but the way they were able to reshape that offensive scheme to fire in December and January and into February was something really impressive. Now you're kind of dealing with a similar struggle, I think, now that you've seen what Odell can be as a red zone weapon. What else out there can replace him for a half or a full season? I think they were really fortunate to find someone with Allen Robinson's catch radius. And when I think about how can the Rams incrementally improve from a division-winning, Super Bowl-winning season, run efficiency might be one of them, maybe creating a few more takeaways, creating longer fields for opponents. But atop that list, it might be red zone conversion. I mean, they move the ball incredibly efficiently. They didn't necessarily capitalize on the rate of their drives with touchdowns instead of field goals that I think they would like to, and that I absolutely expect them to with someone of OBJ and or Allen Robinson's skill set to add to Tyler Higbee healthy, Jacob Harris, who knows what threat he can present, and certainly being able to run the football more efficiently inside the 20.
I love Matt Gay. I just want to see less of him. Yeah. Except for extra points. Yeah.
All right, the last name on my list, Riley Dixon, has been added in. And now, what do you guys think? Is this going to be a competition? Could we potentially see another pick of a punter this year? What are you thinking?
Well, without one of the best punters in league history, I'd like to see competition. I wouldn't want one guy to be anointed, and this is the guy. Always replacing a guy like Johnny Hekker, a great punter, it's always going to be tough. So I'd like to see as many legs as possible in camp and pick one guy. Pick the best guy going forward.
Goes back a little bit with Joe DeCamillis, right? So the
Yeah.
fact that a former special teams coach now with Los Angeles vouched for him, was interested in him, I think speaks well, gives him a leg up, pun very intended, going into the offseason.
I was going to make one about the weather. He was with the Giants and the Broncos. I'm like, the guy can kick in weather.
Whether or not they use a draft pick on him or they use the college free agency process to say, hey, there's an opportunity to come in here. They often carry multiple kickers through camp. Most teams do. Yeah, I don't think it's the final answer, but it may be a very viable answer. And I'll say this, no matter who is punting the football for the Rams, I think they're going to get great results because of how the operation was clicking at the end of last year and because of the way they covered punts with some of those outrageous talents out on the perimeter.
Benny Sko. Wow.
Yep.
Love
Oof.
to watch him.
All right, guys, this is the last one. I think it's going to be a fun conversation tomorrow. Any surprise positions that might get picked? And the reason I bring this up is because the Rams traditionally, they have a slight trend with guys going into their last contract year. If you take a look at the position group, those are a lot of the guys they're looking for in the draft by trend. So to give you a few of them, ending in 1 year, Greg Gaines, D-tackle, Ashawn Robinson, Rob Havenstein, Bobby Evans, David Edwards, Darrell Henderson, Nick Scott, Taylor Rapp, and David Long Jr.
Wow.
So what are you thinking? Are you thinking we already got the offensive lineman?
That kind of says safety, right? You got two on that
I think
list.
safety would qualify for a surprise one because
Yeah.
I think we know what their depth chart looks like and it's a pretty strong one, but I wouldn't be surprised if they added to it.
Yeah.
I would expect a running back to be joining the Rams tomorrow either through a draft pick or through a college free agency
Wow. Load that room. Yeah. Cornerback?
opportunity.
Corner?
Corner's not a surprise for me. Corner.
Yeah, okay.
I would be
I was gonna say
surprised
that's-
if there isn't a corner or two added to the Rams roster tomorrow, and maybe as a top priority going into round 4 and 5.
Oh, you said surprises.
Yeah,
oh,
these are
quarterback
surprises.
then. Quarterback.
Oh,
yeah.
come on.
Yeah. I'd be
That's
shocked.
astronomical.
More there than you would have expected.
No doubt. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay,
Wow.
I should have said realistic
Oh,
surprises.
there you go. Yeah.
I love it. All right, well, any other thoughts, guys, now that we've closed out day 2 and on to day 3 tomorrow?
Just a pleasure to be here and
Yeah.
to see, I think, the organization, including those at the top, relishing in their success and not being satisfied with it. The way that they are able to enjoy their camaraderie, I think they're very confident in the way they've reloaded their coaching staff, enjoying a lot of the benefits that have come with being world champions, but not satisfied with one Lombardi trophy.
No doubt. With this draft pick, I don't know of a scarier 3 words for a defensive tackle than Wisconsin offensive lineman. And now you've got 3. So, yeah, good draft.
I love it. All right, well, that concludes our draft coverage here, at least for day 2, for the Rams post-draft presented by Rocket Mortgage. And we've got another show coming tomorrow. I believe you guys are going to be sticking around for that tomorrow afternoon, and potentially Sean McVay will be joining you guys. So if you want to catch
You
that.
got the pool house, I've got the downstairs guest.
I'm jumping in the pool.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, we've already had that once. I think I might head there now. Thanks for joining us. Hello and welcome to the Rams post-draft show. It's been day number 2, and this is presented by Rocket Mortgage. Hi everyone, I'm Cameron Irwin, alongside JV Long, DeMarco Farr, and Les Snead, the general manager of the Los Angeles Rams. And it's exciting news right now. Day 2, we have our first pick for the Los Angeles Rams. Finally, we're there. But let's talk, before we get to Logan Bruss, about this location, because the second year in a row we've had a